In this installment, we dive into the story of Little Draws, the younger brother of the notorious Big U. Big U has faced significant controversy in recent years, particularly following his indictment last month under Operation Drawdown, a federal effort aimed at dismantling his network after decades of alleged involvement in extortion, murder, robbery, and fraud. Known for his formidable reputation in the streets, Big U was a well-known figure within the rolling 60s Crips, a gang that originated in the 1970s. Over the years, he went by multiple aliases, including Hannibal and Big Draws. Early life of Lil Draws. His ties to the rolling 60s ran deep. Many of his relatives were also affiliated with the set. Naturally, his younger brother, Dwayne Lil Draws Depre, followed a similar path. Not only did he adopt his brother's nickname, but he also became deeply entrenched in the gang lifestyle, embracing everything the rolling 60s had to offer. By the early 1990s, Big U was incarcerated following a sting operation that resulted in a 13-year sentence. Around the same time, a new wave of hip-hop was rising in Los Angeles, spearheaded by Death Row Records, founded by Suge Knight and Dr. Dre. The label quickly gained traction, signing prominent inner-city talent, including future stars like Snoop Dogg and his group The Dog Pound, featuring Kurupt and Daz Dillinger. Kurupt, originally from Philadelphia, moved to LA in his teens and soon became associated with the rolling 60s Crips. Big U and Little Draws took a liking to him, and through their endorsement, Kurupt began to align himself more closely with the gang, both on the streets and in the music scene. Before Big U started mentoring artists like Nipsey Hussle, his first real involvement was with Kurupt. There's a well-known story from that era. Big U spotted Kurupt in a car with some neighborhood guys. He walked over and said, "What are you doing here? Ain't you a rapper?" After pulling him out of the car, Big U told him, "You've got a bigger purpose. You're not meant to be running around with the homies like this." He sent him back into the studio, urging him to stay focused. Big U had formed a music label called Delicious Entertainment, and while the paperwork was still being finalized, he was already making moves in the industry. Unfortunately, his prison sentence meant he couldn't fully capitalize on a wave of talent rising under Death Row's banner. Some speculate that if Big U had been freed during Death Row's golden years, the label and Kurupt's career might have taken a very different path. Suge Knight's heavy-handed control of LA's music scene might have met resistance from someone like Big U, who matched him in both physical presence and street influence. By 1991, Big U was locked up. In 1992, Kurupt officially signed with Death Row and quickly gained recognition, appearing on compilations and albums by label mates. In 1995, the Dog Pound released their debut album, Dog Food. But by the late 90s, Death Row began to unravel. Suge Knight went to prison, Dr. Dre and Snoop Dogg departed, and Tupac was killed. The label lost its momentum, and many artists, including Kurupt, left. Kurupt released his debut solo album, Corruption, in 1998, marking his official departure from Death Row. His follow-up, Streets as a Mother, came out in 1999. But during the recording of that album, tragedy struck. Corruption. On October 17, 1999, Kurupt, along with artists like The Realist and Act a Fool, was at Echo Sound Studio in Atwater Village for a session. Several people were in attendance, including known rolling 60s Crips like Kirok and Lil Draws, who was acting as Kurupt's bodyguard. Atwater Village, however, was a gang-heavy area, and tensions were brewing. Multiple theories exist about what triggered the attack that night. Some believe local gangs, particularly Tunerville, felt disrespected by the artist showing up without checking in. Others suggest racial animosity played a role, with some in Tunerville unhappy about black men being in the area. What the artist didn't know was that Timothy McGee, a feared and violent figure in LA with a double-digit body count by 1999, was affiliated with Tunerville. That night, McGee allegedly rode by the studio on a motorcycle, armed with an AK-47, and opened fire on the group. The Realist was shot in the foot. Act a Fool was also hit. But the most tragic loss was Little Draws, who died from his wounds. The shooting sent shockwaves through the community. In the aftermath, rumors swirled. Some media outlets falsely claimed the shooting was linked to a feud between Kurupt and DMX over Foxy Brown. Diss tracks between the two had already sparked gossip, and the incident added fuel to the fire. But the theory was later debunked. Those close to the situation recalled it differently. They said it wasn't about East Coast-West Coast beef at all. More likely, it was local gang politics, territory disputes, or deep-seated racial tensions that led to the deadly ambush. Big U was still in prison during this time, and although he couldn't intervene directly, his name and legacy continued to shape the streets and the people tied to them. Little Draws' death marked a turning point. Both a tragic end and a reminder how dangerous that intersection of music and gang life could be. Man, Big U's little brother, Draws, he was one of the coolest guys, no doubt. That night, while I was in a recording booth, something happened outside. Maybe they were smoking or just hanging out. And that's when Lil Draws was killed. It was tragic. Years later, Timothy McGee was sentenced to death, not only for the studio shooting that took Draws' life, but also for a series of other violent crimes that left several people dead and many more injured. More than 2 decades have passed since Lil Draws' death, and to this day, the Rolling 60s continue to honor his memory and show him respect. While the case has technically been solved with McGee's arrest and sentencing, the exact motive behind the shooting remains a mystery. That concludes this episode.